Open the podcast bay door as hell.
Hello everyone, and welcome to episode 68 of Welcome to Geektown. I'm your host, Kurt Onstead. I've been a proud geek all my life, being into role-playing games, board games, sci-fi, fantasy, and especially superheroes and comics. And I want to help others join me in those pursuits. But I found that sometimes people can get overwhelmed or feel left out because they don't already have what some consider the requisite knowledge to be considered a fan. And that's where Welcome to Geektown comes in. Here you can ask your questions without feeling like a gatekeeper is calling you out for not yet being fully versed in every aspect of your new interest. I really would like to know what you, my loyal listeners, would like to hear about next. My inbox is mighty lonely and needs your questions to fill it up. You can send any questions or topic suggestions via email to welcometogeektown, all spelled out, at gmail.com. Or by going to the show's website, welcome to, the number 2 in this case, geektown.com, and clicking the Submit a Question link and filling out the form there. I look forward to hearing from you. This week, we're continuing with another edition of The Replacements. As a quick reminder, listener Justin B. asked what happens to the characters that replace other heroes after the original comes back. Last time we covered this topic, we looked at all the Robins that have donned the red, green, and yellow over the years. Now we'll look to Robin's mentor to see who all has donned the cape and cowl to become the Dark Knight, aka Batman. As per my usual, I'm only covering those people who have been the replacement in regular continuity. So, despite loving the characters myself, Terry McGinnis from Batman Beyond, Batman Jr. from the Super Sons stories, and other alternate Earth Batmen are not going to be covered. Now that we've set the ground rules, let's get started. Bruce Wayne, as most likely all of you know, is the original Batman, dedicating himself to his one-man crusade, later a two-man affair, eventually growing into a whole Bat family, to try to ensure that no one goes through the pain of losing their parents to violent crime ever again, as he did. Bruce was basically the only one to take on the role of the Caped Crusader for over 50 years. A number of characters during that time put on Batman's costume at one point or another, but those were all quick appearances, usually in order to help Bruce Wayne maintain his secret identity by allowing Bruce and Batman to be in the same place. Some of those stand-ins include Superman, Martian Manhunter, and even Bruce's aged butler, Alfred, who apparently is a really good actor. Also, some villains, like Hugo Strange, have tried to fool people into believing they were Batman in order to frame him for a crime or for some sort of psychological torture. But if you asked all those people, they would say that they were pretending to be Batman as opposed to actually being Batman, so I don't think those should count. It wasn't until 1993 that we get our first true Bat replacement. Following the death of Superman's success, check out episode 15 for details on that, DC tried to replicate it by breaking Bruce Wayne's back and putting a new character in the cape and cowl in a story titled Nightfall. That new character was created by Denny O'Neil, Joe Quesada, and Grant Morrison, and originally introduced in Batman Sword of Azrael #1, which came out in October of 1992. His name was Jean-Paul Valley, or Azrael when in his original costume. Unknowingly coming from a long line of religious assassins, Jean-Paul had been secretly conditioned his entire life to become the Angel of Vengeance for the Order of Saint Dumas, a fictional branch of the real-life Knights Templar. When his father died, Jean-Paul was activated by the Order, and in hunting down those who killed his father, ran into and fought first against, then with Batman. Although he was supposed to be an assassin for the Order of Saint Dumas, Jean-Paul rejected that and sought to become a more Batman-like, non-lethal hero. Just a few months later, when Batman lost his battle against Bane and had his spine broken, Bruce named the new hero as his successor. Jean-Paul put on a more armored Bat costume. It was at this point the fandom started referring to him as Azbats, as the armor was very similar to his Azrael costume, but with Batman's coloring. He was able to defeat Bane, and took over as the new Dark Knight. Unfortunately, the Saint Dumas conditioning was harder to fight off than he originally thought, and this new Batman became more and more cruel and callous, first kicking Robin out of the Batcave, then punishing criminals with more brutal methods than had ever been sanctioned by Bruce, all the while hallucinating images of his father and of Saint Dumas. The straw that broke the camel's back, but ended up healing the bat's back, was when Azbats allowed an innocent victim to die in pursuit of killing a criminal. It was at this point that Bruce realized he had to take the mantle back, and took drastic measures to regain his mobility and fighting prowess. Bruce and Jean-Paul fight once again, as they did the first time they met, and the original Batman is able to shock his replacement out of his delusions long enough to give up and beg the Caped Crusaders' forgiveness. Although Bruce kicks Jean-Paul out of Wayne Manor, he does feel some responsibility for the young man's situation, and accepts Jean-Paul's apology for his outrageous behavior. After spending some time living on the street, Azrael, with financial help from Bruce Wayne, travels around the world, searching out the Order of Saint Dumas, the society that had created his Azrael persona, and wiping them out. He became an agent of the Bat, and got his own monthly series which often crossed over with the other Bat titles, especially during the major events like Contagion, Legacy, and Cataclysm. His series went on for 100 issues. Quite an achievement for a character just over a decade old. But that came to an end with the death of Jean-Paul in that final centennial issue. Other than a couple of flashbacks, and an appearance as a zombie-like creature during the Blackest Night crossover story, that was the last we saw of Azrael until the New 52. As you may know from episode 1 of the show, the New 52 rebooted the whole DC universe, giving it an entirely new history, for the most part. Green Lantern and Batman's history seemed to be mostly intact, thanks to the popularity of the creative teams on the books at the time. However, one piece that seems to have been erased with that reboot was Azrael's time in the costume, as he's treated as a new character again when he showed up in Batman and Robin Eternal number 9. He was back to being an enforcer for the Order of Saint Dumas, who turned on the Order by the end of that first storyline. Once again, Jean-Paul has tried to turn his back on his conditioning and work with the Bat family and other DC heroes. Currently, he can be seen in the Justice League Odyssey book, where he's dancing the line between hero and villain as he fights for self-control. Moving on to the next character to take on Batman's mantle, we find ourselves with Bruce's original protege, Richard Dick Grayson, aka the original Robin, later Nightwing. Grayson took on the role of Batman twice, actually. The first time was very soon after Azbat's stint. Bruce felt he was not quite up to full strength yet, and went on a training sabbatical and asked Dick to take over during that time. Knowing it was a temporary assignment, the former sidekick felt more comfortable doing so. This was collected as the Prodigal storyline. Dick acquitted himself honorably in the role, and came away with an even better understanding of his mentor than he ever had, which helped heal some of the long-standing wounds between the two heroes. The second time that the former Boy Wonder took on the Dark Knight's costume was following Bruce's apparent death in Final Crisis. There was a miniseries titled Battle for the Cowl, in which all the Robins fought in one way or another for the right to claim the Batman title. But it was the original Robin who came out on top. Technically, because of this story, I could recap all the different Robins again as replacements, but instead I'll just point you to episode 58, where I go into each of those in more detail. Grayson took on Batman's son Damian as his Robin, and the two worked extraordinarily well together. Damian even took orders from Dick more readily than he does from his father, even to this day. As noted in the Robin's replacement episode, Dick returned to being Nightwing once Bruce came back from his strange trip through time that had made it appear that he was dead in the first place. That was Dick's status quo for most of the time since then, although in the New 52/Rebirth era, he had lost his memory and acted as a non-costume spy for some time, calling himself Rick during that amnesiac period. He recently recovered his memories and is back to going by his original nickname and has also returned to his Nightwing costume. Finally, we come to the most unlikely of Batman replacements, Commissioner James Jim Gordon. This happened during the New 52 era, so it's the only one that is definitely in current continuity. At the end of the epic Endgame storyline in 2015's Batman number 40, Batman and Joker fought for seemingly the final time, with both characters appearing to be dead at the finale. Of course they weren't, as we never saw the bodies, but it took Bruce and Joker off the table for a while. During his absence, a company called Powers International started a test program to create their own Batman, and recruited a reluctant Jim Gordon to be the first one in the suit. Instead of Batman's usual cape and cowl, this was a full-on mech armor, obviously inspired by various Japanese manga and anime characters. Although Jim did not want to participate in this experiment, at first calling it the worst idea in the history of Gotham, which, given the city's history, is quite an achievement, Gordon did fairly well during his time as Gotham's protector, even earning the praise of the Justice League. By the end of the Super Heavy storyline, as it was titled, the armor is destroyed by new villain Mr. Bloom, and the one true Batman has returned. Jim himself returned to his role as police commissioner, albeit with a new appreciation for his vigilante partner. The next big status quo change for Jim came about during the Batman Who Laughs storyline. Batman Who Laughs is an alternate Earth Bruce Wayne who was infected by a special version of Joker gas when Batman killed the Clown Prince of Crime, becoming a new Jokerized Batman. He's being used quite prominently in current storylines. Gordon was infected by the villain, along with half a dozen other characters, and as the infection slowly took over, eventually revealed himself as working with the Batman Who Laughs to try to kill this world's Bruce Wayne. He's since been cured of this insidious disease, but due to his actions at that time, he's been replaced as commissioner and is on an extended leave. He is a supporting character in the current Batgirl comics, being the lead's father, and I'm sure he will return to his own usual status quo someday, but maybe not for a little while. That covers all the different people to legitimately take the Batman name over the years. Do you think I missed one? Or do you have a question you think would make a good topic for a future episode? Anything you'd like to say, I'm open to reading. Simply email me at welcometogeektown, all spelled out, @gmail.com. Or if you prefer to remain anonymous, just go to welcome to, the number 2 in this case, geektown.com and click the Submit a Question link and fill out the form there. Other contact options include facebook.com/welcome to Geektown or Twitter @GeektownPodcast. If you'd like to support the show directly, you can pitch in $1 per month at patreon.com/welcome to Geektown to get access to audio outtakes, full scripts, and a monthly shoutout. If you want a free way to help out, don't forget to subscribe and give me a 5-star review over on Apple Podcasts to join the Geektown City Council, which helps other people find the show, so we can all tell them, welcome to Geektown, population, us. Welcome to Geektown is written, narrated, edited, and produced by me, Kurt Onstead. Theme music is by Aaron Levitz, logo art by Archie Santana. All other sound clips are the copyrighted material of their respective owners, and no infringement is intended, falling under fair use.